Dan the Natural Man Show. It's another Manic Monday, right? The Mondays just keep coming and going and coming and going. Today I wanted to talk about a few studies I found about ultra-processed foods. And the ultra-processed foods are also known as convenience foods. Simply because they're you can grab them and maybe heat them up or just eat them from a bag. And they may be convenient in that way, but that's the only way that they're convenient. Because these foods are showing in study after study to be terrible for our health. And there is nothing convenient about developing some of these diseases caused by these ultra-processed foods. Now before we get started, let's talk about what are ultra-processed foods. Potato chips, frozen dinners, so I have another list. Soft drinks, hot dogs. Ugh, hot dogs have all kinds of nasty parts in them. It says here frozen meals, deli meat, fast food, packaged cookies, cakes, salty snacks, jarred sauces, and even plant-based milks. You see some of these foods, you'll be able to identify them because they will have a long ingredient list, and this ingredient list will contain names that you can't even pronounce because they're chemicals, they're made in a lab. They were never meant to be put into a human body. And this is probably just common sense for most of us, that we probably shouldn't be eating all these chemical frankenfoods because it might not be good for us. So now some of the diseases they're finding that these foods greatly increase. One of them is dementia. Of course, cardiovascular disease, they're driving the risk of developing cardiovascular disease, heart attack, strokes, all those bad things. Metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is when it's the first sign that your body is metabolically unwell. You go to the doctor and you'll have slightly elevated blood pressure, slightly elevated blood sugar, slightly elevated cholesterol. You'll have your inflammation, your CRP may be a little up too. And the doctors that know these things knows that if the person doesn't change their lifestyle and their eating habits, then eventually these things can become full-blown. So you'll become a diabetic with heart disease and all that. Of course, they make you gain weight. There's studies done showing that some people who eat a lot of processed foods are obese. And another study showed that these processed foods make you gain weight really fast. And those are all really bad lifestyle diseases, but there's another study coming out showing ultra-processed food consumption and cancer risk. So they were looking at, they were looking at these types of cancers. The outcome was risk of total cancer in one or more of the following cancers: colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, chronic leukemia, and central nervous system tumors. 9 studies reported a significant positive association between ultra-processed food intake and all the assessed cancers except prostate. After adjustment for confounding factors including obesity and total energy intake, a 10% increment in the diet's proportion of ultra-processed food was associated with increased risk of overall cancer and breast cancer. In addition, a high intake of this food was associated with increased risk of colon cancer and pancreatic cancer. So basically, these foods in high amounts can be fatal. That's not very convenient. It's not very convenient at all. We have to laugh sometimes because it's amazing to me some of the crap that we have in American supermarkets. There's a lot of people overseas in places like Britain and England, and they say that they don't have this kind of garbage on their shelves. If you compare a processed food label from America and one from, say, Britain, the ingredient list is much different. American food labels, it has all kinds of garbage, and most of it you can't even pronounce. You compare it to the same label in Britain, and it's actually all food ingredients. There's no chemicals in there. So ultra-processed food is the worst of all in America, and I think that we're starting to see it. I mean, most people in America are sick. You can set up a stand in the street and interview people and ask them how their health is, and I would say 80% of them would have something wrong with them, and they would be on some prescription drug. And a driver, some of these things, one driver, it's lots of drivers, but ultra-processed food is one of them. So I guess my tip today from a health coach would be, one of the best places to start to improve your health for the better is learn how to cook at home. And it's easier and easier. You can get recipes online. There are videos on YouTube and other resources that you can learn to cook. And if you start to do that and you have a little bit of weight you want to lose, it'll start to come off. If you're trying to get healthier, you will get healthier. Blood markers will start to improve. And of course, I recommend plant-based. Look for a lot of good, healthy plant-based recipes. They're also delicious. So that's what I want to talk about today. Ultra-processed foods are wreaking havoc across the land. A lot of us that are sick may not even be aware that some of the foods we're eating are causing it. But I can tell you that food and nutrition is the backbone of health. And until you get that foundation stable and start to eat the right foods, it's going to be really hard or impossible to get healthy again. So if you like this video, please like it and share it. Please subscribe to my channel. Check out my page, DanTheNaturalMan.com. And remember, until next time, keep it natural.